Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy. My name is Neelam Malkani, and I'm going to be your guide and facilitator for CAT management exams. Today, I'm going to talk about NMAT analysis. The exam started 4th of November. So, in these 3 days, what is the feedback of students and what is the structure of exam? Because NMAT changed its pattern this year, brought in a lot of transformative changes to its pattern. So let's understand what those changes are and how students responded to those changes in these 3 days, right? So let's start with NMAT analysis. But before that, let me just give you a brief introduction of myself. My name is Neelam Malkani. I have around 12 years of experience of test preparation industry. I have trained students for CAT, GRE, GMAT, SAT, TOEFL and IELTS. My areas of expertise have been English and reasoning. I've also set and designed assessment papers of English and reasoning for different government bodies as well as for professional bodies. I've also been an examiner of English for an international organization. Recently authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. The book is written in both Hindi and English. Very quickly, let me take you to the portal of Unacademy and tell you how you can be part of this and start your preparation for CAT. First, you download the Unacademy Learning app from the App Store and fill in all the details. Go in the category of Plus course if you want to attend classes for CAT. When you go in that category and choose the classes for CAT, you will be shown all the features that you will be availing when you go for the subscription, such as 30 hours of live sessions every day. As in when you subscribe this product, you will be able to attend all these classes which are happening every day. So 30 hours of live session as per your choice or as per your availability. You can choose the time of your class, you can choose the educator of your choice. Top 14 educators are there delivering their sessions on Unacademy. Educators have extensive experience of mentoring and guiding students for different exams. The sessions which are delivered by these top educators are structured and well designed. And they are designed by those people who have experience of curriculum and design. Every month, you get to see a new course being launched on Academy. As per the recent changes, the pattern, the exam, and as per the need and the requirement of a specific exam, these courses are devised and designed. When you go in the subscription, you will see different models of subscription to suit your needs. 1 month if you're preparing only for CAT 20 and other exams, 3 months if you're targeting this year exam, this year management exams which are happening in January and February. If you're targeting for 2020, you can go for 1 or 2 years, depending on which year you are in and what your plan for this exam preparation is. Whichever model of subscription you choose, if you want to avail further 10% discount, you have to type code NEELAM. Now let's get started with today's agenda, that is NMAT 2020 analysis, based on those students who have taken this exam in 3 years, starting from 4th of November. So the exam was reported to be quite doable this year. So all the sections barring quantitative aptitude, all the sections were reported to be doable. They were moderate, easy to moderate in difficulty level. Now since it was a computer adaptive exam, so this analysis or this feedback of student has to be taken with a pinch of salt, because no set of 2 students will be given same set of questions. A student who is two students who are taking the exam in the similar window in the same slots will not face similar set of questions, because the questions are going to be given to them as per their performance, as per their answers, right? Computer adaptability will give you a unique set of questions based on your performance during the exam. So hence, a student who found it easy may not have may not be same for other student, right? So that way you will have to take it with a pinch of salt, but consensus was for all the students who were asked about their feedback, consensus was quantitative aptitude was a bit difficult. Otherwise, these two sections were quite manageable. Now, verbal ability. So, keeping that feedback in mind, what we have devised is around 75 to 80 questions from the 08 questions could have been easily solved within a time span of 120 minutes. The duration of exam is 2 hours and the number of questions is 108 this year. So in that, 75 to 80 questions could have easily be solved with 90-95% accuracy. Exam was slightly easy and doable. Two sections were especially considered easy and doable by most of the students. A great number of students have scored. So another big change which NMAT brought this year, in line with that of GMAT, that as and when you submit your exam, submit your test, you will be given your score. That way, a couple of students have scored 230 plus, right? So that is definitely good score. So that way you can understand that amount is quite manageable. Hence, most of them scored 230 plus. That way you can understand that the difficulty level has come down. Now let's quickly have a look at the structure of NMAT. The language skill, logical reasoning, quantitative skills. Three sections, similar number of questions. 36, 36, 36 is going to be the number of questions, whereas there's going to be differential time allotted to each section. So for verbal ability, you will be given 28 minutes. For logical reasoning, you will be given 40 minutes. And for quantitative skills, you will be given 2 minutes. So highest time is devoted to quantitative ability here. So overall, 120 minutes for 108 questions. The score range will be 36 to 60 overall. Now let's look at the number of questions which could have been ideal attempt in the period of this 3 window and the sectional cutoff. NMAT also has sectional cutoff overall score as well as sectional cutoff each section. So 24 to 27 question in verbal ability out of 36 question, 24 to 27 question with reasonable accuracy would be good attempt. Right? At the same time, 60 to 65 is going to be the expected cutoff of this section. Out of 36 question of logical reasoning, would easily do 28, 30 question in 40 minutes. And with that, since this question was a huge score booster because this was quite manageable this year. 65 to 70, and highest section cutoff is going to be of this because this was quite manageable section. Quantitative skills, which are reported to be a bit difficult than these two sections, would be in the range of 28-30, right? But the cutoff is going to be 60 to 60. That way you can understand that this number of questions, this many questions out of 36 questions will land you somewhere in the range of clearing the cutoff of the section, and with that you can also clear the overall cutoff. That is going to be a bit higher this year. This year, the overall cutoff will definitely go on a higher side. 230, 40 is expected to be the overall cutoff for colleges. Here, this year, if you have targeted your exam to be taken in this window, in the first window, try to score higher. Try to maximize your score by practicing more. Verbal ability. Now let's look at each section and what student actually reported about each section. So RC is given 12 questions and verbal ability 24 questions. Overall, 36 questions were divided into two major parts. RC 12 questions, verbal ability 24 questions. Let's look at RC first. There were 3 passages, 2 to 3 passages. Some students faced 2 passages, some students reported they faced 3 passages. So again, it depends on your performance. RC is considered tough variety of questions. So if you are doing extremely well in your verbal ability section, you possibly will be facing 3 RCs. If you are doing moderately well, you will face 2 RCs. All students reported 2 RCs were minimum there. Some of the students faced 3 RCs as well. Each passage was followed by 4 questions. The passages were in the range of 400 to 500 words, and they were moderate, easy. They were easy to follow, they were easy to read. Questions were also not very difficult. The only thing that was difficult in these passages was time, right? Because you are given very limited amount of time to do these 36 questions. So if you are spending inordinate amount of time reading the questions and reading the passage, you possibly will miss doing all the questions or entire section. So that's the biggest challenge in NMAT. So if you want to do well in this part, try to practice doing RC with scanning and skimming, the technique that we employ these passages. So with that, NMAT passages can be managed. Verbal ability was again segregated into 3 parts. One is grammar, parajumble, and vocabulary. So 10 questions were based on vocabulary, 10 questions were based on grammar, and 4 questions on parajumble. All students reported 4 questions on parajumble. So it did not, this number really did not vary as per their performance in the exam. But verbal ability question between grammar and vocabulary varied with a couple of students. So paragraph jumble, 4 sentences or 5 sentences also. 4 and 5 sentences, easy to moderate level difficult. Only challenge was to read it thoroughly and to devise your answer, because there are 4-5 options, so the confusion is more. That's the only challenge that student faced. Otherwise the questions were quite doable. So if you have done enough practice of parajumble question of CAT and other management exams, the questions which appeared in previous year papers, you will have fair command over this section. This question is not going to pose any challenge to you. Vocabulary based questions were basically analogies, filling the blank. Both are based on the application. Merely knowing the meaning of word is not going to be suffice here, because you will have to understand the meaning as well as application of the analogies, where 2 words are given and there is a relationship that is to be figured out. On the basis of the relationship, you will find your answer pair. That answer pair which should reflect the same relationship which is given in the word pair. So that requires greater understanding of meaning as well as words application. May also require you to understand words connotation, because the words may be exactly synonymous, but they may have different connotation. So here, subtle variations in the word meaning as well as their usage are to be put into place in order to do well in this question. 4 to 5 analogy based questions reported by all the students. So here, for this set of questions, you not only have to have the understanding of word meaning, but how these words can be paired with other words and have different meaning. So do solve analogy questions. A very good reservoir of analogy questions could be the official guide of NMAT, which is published by GMAT only, as well as earlier pattern of GRE, earlier papers of GRE. GRE used to have analogy based questions earlier. So there is a big book that's a very credible resource to practice GRE questions. We'll have enough questions, standard questions built by ETS, the test taking agency of GRE, and you will get to see those advanced level questions based on analogies and their answers. So try to practice those questions, because 4 and 5 questions can make huge difference. If you have exhausted official guide of GMAT and are done with all the analogy based questions from other resources, try this resource. The earlier version of GRE had analogies, so big book, and the previous papers of GRE can also be a very good resource, a valuable resource to do these questions. Filling the blanks. One more question which is based on application of words. There is a sentence which has 1 or 2 blanks. Most of them reported 2 blanks. So there are 2 blanks and 2 words are to be filled in. So going to make the sentence complete, which are appropriately fitting in the context of the sentence. So here, not every word can be fitting. you may be faced with the option which are almost synonymous, which are very, very similar, but only those words which are fitting in the context of that sentence. That way, you need to have understanding of the shade of difference of synonyms. Merely remembering, cramming words is not going to suffice. Rather, delve deeper into their meaning, their shades of difference, as well as the subtle differences which exist between synonyms. That is going to give you a very, that's definitely going to give you a head start to do well in these two vocabulary based questions. For this question as well, fill in the blank has consistently been part and parcel of management exam. You'll see ZAD, IFT, SNAP, couple of years CAT questions earlier, where this question appeared, filling the blank question. Try to solve those questions. And the questions which NMAT has given in its official guide, right? GRE has, again, filling the blank questions. It's verbal ability. Try to solve those questions. Very standard material. The more exposed you are to the official material, the better will be your clarity, the greater will be your confidence. Alright? Try to base your practice on official material. So official material will be previous year papers, and the official material will be official guide of NMAT and other papers of GRE. So base your practice on these three resources. FIB based on prepositions. That's a very quintessential NMAT question. There will be 3 blanks and there will be 6 prepositions. And there will be options A, B, C, which are going to represent the correct preposition. So exactly one very minute part of grammar, which suddenly becomes so huge in terms of NMAT. So correct preposition to be filled in a sentence. If you are through with this concept and if you have done extensive practice, you are not going to face any problem. Because if you are sure about 2 preposition, you will come to your answer. So the questions are not designed in a very difficult way. The questions are easy to do. As long as you are clear with the concept, you will be able to see your answer. So sometime going with the options in this question will also help you, right? So try to employ that approach, going through the option. If you're sure about one preposition, see where that is placed in your answer and then work around with the other. Spotting the error in underlined. So again, grammatical accuracy. So these questions were reported by all the students in 3 days. Spotting the error, one part was underlined, and you will have to find out which which option can replace that part correctly without changing the meaning and bringing grammatical accuracy to it. So this again can be found in a couple of exams. As I said, to base your practice on official practice material. Spotting the error can be found in previous year papers of CAT as well as other management and official guide of it. So article, conditional, tenses, and subject verb agreement. These topics have time and again been tested in grammar based questions. We'll find that 50% question will be based on these 3 concepts. So be through with these 3 concepts, at least if you want to excel in this part of grammar. Verb agreement, tenses, article, and preposition. So if you are not able to brush up all the concepts of grammar and you have just started your preparation, you will be in a fair position if you do well in these 4 parts. Consolidate these 4 concepts, more and more practice. So this was about verbal ability. 12 questions on our side, 24 questions on verbal ability. Now, it is highly advisable that you do these verbal ability questions because these questions are not very time consuming and these questions will give you that dose of confidence that you need to well in this exam, right? So if that is possibility, you can always plan you plan your execution of the test in a way that you take this part first. Now let's say second is logical reasoning. verbal reasoning and non-verbal reasoning. That's how this entire part was segregated. So 18 question in verbal reasoning, 18 question is non-verbal reasoning. Implicit statement, where you are asked to see what is the implicit assumption and what cannot be assumed. Is this kind of this question. In official guide of NMAT, this question has been given, so you can always go through that, understand the concept well, and then later on apply this concept here. So logism, logical consistency, very frequently tested concepts in NMAT and SNAP is also there in this year. Critical reasoning. So this was reported by a couple of students. So I assume those students face critical reasoning question, the paragraph-based reasoning question, those who could do well in their reasoning section, because this is considered a tough variety of question. So not all students face this paragraph-based reasoning question, inference and conclusion, rather some of them faced it. But critical reasoning is very likely to be there. So you better prepare yourself and practice enough for this part of logical reasoning. Course of action and decision making. As I have already discussed this before when I took the orientation of NMAT, decision making has been part of ZAT. It was introduced by NMAT. So consistently it has been part of logical reasoning of NMAT. So decision making based on a paragraph. So a situation is there, you are given all the guidelines, and as per that you will have to take a decision. It could be an administrative decision, it could be a managerial decision, it could be ethical dilemma, or it could be a situation where you have to come up with a feasible solution of the problem. So here, the basic principles of decision making that you study for ZAT will also be applicable here. Right? So please be through with that part when you attempt these questions. In official NMAT, guide of NMAT, a detailed concept note is given on the decision making, as well as some questions are also given. So those questions are definitely going to give you a fair idea of what these questions are going to be like. Course of action, that's here, there in logical reasoning part, and they are very easy to attempt. They are based on 2-line, 3-line situation and 2 course of action given. Which of these is applicable in this scenario? So that's how you have to understand which decision will be able to solve the situation. So this was 50% part of your logical reasoning, and this was quite doable and easy to read, easy to consume, not much challenging. So that way you can see that if you do well in this part, you can easily manage entire logical reasoning. 50% accuracy, 50% time. That way you can easily manage this section. And this is with verbal ability. So logical reasoning, this is based on verbal reasoning. So the more you practice verbal and verbal ability, the better you will be at this section. Non-verbal reasoning. So 50% weightage was given to this part. The questions were segregated to different common categories, which have been part and parcel of NMAT in previous years. Logical puzzles were given, Venn diagram, ranking in queue, the very specific question, figure-based numerical. So the figure is given, and then the different data and numbers are given, and you have to find the sequence of next number. Sequential output. So these questions were 50% of logical reasoning. Very easy to do part. This part is a bit difficult because here you have to read a lot. Read and then absorb the information and then answer the question. But here, if you are good at calculations, if you are good at analytical reasoning, this part is definitely going to be very easy. So logical reasoning was the score booster. Most of them reported that they found this part the easiest part of this entire test. So in ascending order of difficulty level, this was the easiest, verbal ability at the middle, and the highest level difficulty was Quant. Let's come Quant. 60% questions were based on arithmetic. Time, distance and speed, work and time, and these questions, which are based on basic arithmetic concepts, were devoted 60% of questions. So, and this has been a trend of NMAT past years as well. So if you want to score well in this part, try to practice this part. So whenever you have scheduled your exam, it is to be done in December or January. Make it a point that you practice this part. This has always been the trend of NMAT. This year also it retained the same pattern. Arithmetic 60% questions were from this topic only. Modern maths was another major proportion. So PNC and probability was another major proportion which was there in Quant and DI. So geometry was almost missing, but basic questions on mensuration were there. Some of the students faced questions on mensuration. So you cannot completely skip that part, though you might have prepared that for other management exam as well. But don't assume that you won't face any question on geometry. Log-based questions from algebra. So basic log-based questions were also there in content DI. Most of the students reported 3 DI sets in this section. Right, so this has been a uniform feedback from all the students who took exam these 3 days. I hope with that the sectional dimensions are clear. Now, what changes NMAT brought in this year? Let's have a look at it. So, computer adaptability. So, first year the exam in India, which is conducted for Indian school B school admission, has gone computer adaptive, GMAT. Computer adaptive does not allow you to change to review your questions or to skip any question. These are the limitations which come with computer adaptability. So here, whenever a student was trying to skip the question, he was intimated that you have to submit your answer, then only you will be able to go on the next question. So that constraint will be there. You have to mark your answer. When you mark your answer, computer is going to evaluate your answer. On the basis of that, the next question will be thrown at you. So that way, you are going to decide the next question. Your answer is going to decide that way you are creating your own paper there. From all the pool of questions they have, you are the creator of your own question. The creator of your own test paper here, right? So that way, computer adaptability is going to give you some limitation, but same time, no negative marking is going to be the biggest benefit. You cannot skip a question. Questions were based on students' performance. There is a penalty for leaving the question, as we all anticipated, because that is always the feature of computer adaptive test. So if you are skipping a question at the end, or if you're not marking any question, there's a heavy penalty for that. And that is given the instruction at the beginning. So when you begin the test, all sets of instruction which are given to you, one of it says that there will be penalty, though they have not stated what this penalty will be and how much that penalty will be, but it's clear that penalty will be there. So don't skip a question. You won't be able to skip a question, but if you at the end you skip a question and submit your test, that is definitely going to impose a lot of penalty. You will have to choose the sectional order of the test. At the beginning of the test, you will be asked what sectional order you want your test to come in. Whichever sectional order you choose, you have to abide by it. You cannot change in between your exam. That you have to choose as and when you start your test. So you will already have to make this decision. When you take official mock of NMAT, make this decision after some consideration and come to this decision. Because after you freeze that decision, then it will allow you to change that. No option to review. Like CAT or other exams which are conducted online, which ask you or which give you the leeway to review your answer. If you feel that you are not sure between two options, you are unsure about your answer, you can keep it for review. But NMAT does not allow you to do that. You have to mark your answer then and there. So whatever time you have allotted, whatever time you have decided to give to a specific question, devote that time. If it is not workable, mark and go on. You cannot keep it for review. Immediate score, as in when you submit your exam, you will be given your immediate score. As per that, you can decide whether you have to retake the test or you are satisfied with your score and want to apply with that score only. So that way it has kind of easier for you to because earlier last year it was 15 days window which every student had to wait for come and to know about his score, but now it's immediately reported as in when you submit the exam. What is same With NMAT this year, differential time allotted to different sections. So that was earlier. This is this year as well. Freedom of selecting the sequence of section that we already talked about. No negative marking, and that gives you the leeway to mark all questions. That actually gives you the incentive to mark all the questions, because um, since you cannot leave a question unmarked, and since that's the obligation, that means no negative marking is going to incentivize you to mark all the questions. 5 options, in math will have 5 options, so that way difficulty level may be compounded. At the same time, the difficulty level is going to be easy and moderate. You have to work with 5 options. So mock is going to acclimatize you with that kind of structure. 3 attempts and your best score is going to be considered for admission. 3 attempts, you can plan it after getting your first score, first window. Maximum you can go it for twice, because in this limited period of time, you cannot really have an incremental growth in your score. You cannot completely have a transformative score just with the preparation of 10 or 15 days. So first attempt, if you're not satisfied, then space it very meticulously so that you have sufficient time to practice, and then you have second attempt in a period of time where you have worked on your performance, you have worked on your skills, and you have worked on your concept, so that you can expect a good score, a decent score. All right, so that is about, we have already talked about computer adaptability. So it's a thinking test, because it's constantly thinking about your performance, constantly evaluating your performance. So computer is going to freeze your answer, and as per your answer choice, it's going to see which range you belong to, which range you are from. As per that level only, it's going to pick up a question and give to you. They said no students will have same set of variety or same set of questions in their test. The variety may be same, but the difficulty level is going to be different. Scoring system determines your score by accounting for not only the number of questions, but also the difficulty level of the question. So the higher will be the difficulty level, higher will be the marking. The more number of questions you answer which are high on the difficulty level, higher will be your score. It might happen that same number of questions were done correctly by 2 students, but their score is going to be different, because one student might have done those questions more correct, which were in lower category level, lower difficulty level. So that way, your score is the unique representation of your skill. It's uniquely representing your skill in NMAT performance, right? No other test taker will encounter the same combination of questions. Now, what should be your strategy for computer adaptive test? Since it's the first time this is conducted in India for admission to an Indian B school, you have to devise a different strategy to deal with this kind of exam. Focus on the first question in each section. So be it verbal, quant, or logical ability, first questions are going to be of paramount importance, because they are going to decide your next pool of question. Easier if you do not focus much on these first few questions, the next set of questions is going to be easier difficulty level. Though you will get those questions correct, but the marking will also be less. And when you keep on giving right answer to the first few questions, the level of difficulty will keep on rising. So will be the marking. Every question corresponds to a different level of marking. So that way, if you spend more amount of time on first few questions, that will give you more freedom to have questions of higher difficulty level. That is going to be likely that you will get more higher difficulty level questions. So with that, this is the strategy that you have to adopt in your mock as well as in your exam, actual exam. They focus on first few questions, more focus, more time. Don't skip a question that you won't be allowed to. Even last question deserves an educated guess. So it might happen that towards the end of each section, you might run out of time. So you have to do 5 questions, whereas the time is only 2 minutes. So here, every question will I mean, every question deserves your attention. Maybe the last question is the question which is easy to understand. So it is a time or speed based exam. So you have to segregate your time in a way that you can afford some time for each question. Despite spending more time at questions initially, you should try to afford some time to each question. But you have to practice extensively. Through your mocks, through your practice tests, through your sectional timed practice, you can attune with the time. So don't assume that your score is frozen halfway your exam. 36 questions in verbal, let's say, and your score is decided after 25 questions, 26 questions, and last questions are inconsequential to your score. That is actually not the case. If you are random marking those last questions, all of those questions are wrong, that is definitely going to bring down your score. It's definitely going to scale you down. So don't be in this illusion that last questions do not actually value. They do value and they are going to add value into your score. So be as meticulous as you are about first questions and rest of the paper as you should be about last few questions. An unlucky guess at the beginning would be far more damaging. As I said, first few questions are to be done with extreme care and caution. So if you are reckless with those questions, that is going to impact your score more than you're reckless with last few questions. Don't analyze while taking the test. With computer adaptability, this usually happens with students that in between the exam or in the middle of the exam, they start thinking that whether they are doing good or whether they are doing bad in their exam. So that is not for you to decide whether this question is a difficulty level or which difficulty level and what this level should be and why this question is given to me. Am I doing bad or am I doing what my performance in the exam? But ultimately, that is definitely going to bring your confidence level. Don't analyze any question. You don't know their algorithm. You don't know how this whole exam pattern is structured, right? So that way, don't waste your energy, your breath there inside the examination hall thinking what or how you are performing. So you better focus on your performance on each question, attempt it with utmost care and caution, mark your answer, go ahead. Don't evaluate whether it was a tough question, it was easy question, or it was moderate level difficult. That's not for you to decide. That's not, I mean, you don't have actually the competency to decide if it's difficult or easy. Just because it's easy for you does not mean the question is easy. You might have very good grasp of that particular concept. Take it as a one question test to be done, right? So this is one strategy that I would suggest you to do. 70 seconds, 36 questions to be done in 24 minutes. So you will feel that 70 seconds. That way you feel that one test is one question, and for that test you are given this much time. So that way it's going to be easier for you because you're not supposed to skip, you cannot keep it for review. So the time that you have devoted is definitely going to be segregated evenly for all the questions. As I said, first few questions will require you to spend more time. So possibly this 70 second can stretch to 80 seconds or that way, depending on the difficulty level of those few questions, but not more than that. So that way you can easily segregate your time and finish your entire test. And what you should do for your preparation for NMAT. So one free line online practice exam of 108 passed NMAT exam question paper with 2 attempts. That's given by official website of NMAT GMAT, and that is going to give you two benefits. One, the actual rigor of this exam will be exposed to you. You will be given the clear structure and the pattern of NMAT. Second, they will also give you the scaled score of each section. That will give you the real mirror of your preparedness level for this. Whether you are ready or you need to do something to elevate your score. So that way, you take these mocks freely by GMAT, and then if you're satisfied, you can go for one, two more mocks which are given by GMAT only, but pay for that. But I would highly advise, since no computer testing agency is designed to give you computer adaptive exam. No test preparation player will give you computer adaptive pattern exam, right? So you had better go for this and base your preparation on this only if you are serious about NMAT, right? So GMAT official guide is another resource that you can base your practice on. It will also give you the different variety of questions which NMAT has been testing, like decision making, as I said, and logical reasoning. The only part of XAT and Arvin and MAT. You won't find this kind of question in any other exam. You better see what this question structure is and what different kind of questions are asked. Same way in GMAT official guide only, you will be given all the detailed examples and explanation. So what is it that GMAT considers correct option and which option is eliminated on the basis of the reasoning of GMAT, the examiner who are going to set this exam. So you can completely rely on that. That's the authenticated source of those concepts. So do base your preparation on GMAT official guide as well as on the test which are given by GMAT. So two test which you have to pay for and one test which is free. These should be your resources for preparation, and as I said at the beginning, analogies, filling the blank. For that you can rely on GRE material. Big book is a very famous material of GRE. It's a collection of 27 papers of GRE, previous year papers of GRE, analogy questions, FIB questions. If you're through with that resource, this set of question of vocabulary is going to be a cakewalk for you, right? And for passages, you can base your preparation on NMAT passages only. You do CAT passages, they are definitely going to be on a higher side because that kind of preparation is not needed for NMAT. Passages of NMAT are completely different from that of CAT. You better base your preparation of for NMAT on NMAT passages. You see NMAT papers and optional guide. For vocabulary, strong vocabulary is very important for a good score in the verbal section of NMAT. So 10 questions based on vocabulary and back to application of vocabulary. So this, the official guide, this gives you an exhaustive list of words, frequently given tested words in different exams. So be through with that list and try to understand the words in their correct context with their collocation and with their subtle differences, right? So that way the application based question of analogy and FIB will be manageable. Verbal reasoning, another part which is 50% of LR. This part is also covered widely in official guide. Nonetheless, you can rely on the previous year papers of RRCET because this part is also there in bank and PO exams. Because in SBI PO and other exams, you will face these questions. So previous year papers, actual previous year papers, not the coaching material, not the paper which are designed by different test institutions. Rather, official papers, official material is going to give you the rigor of exam. Grammar, as I said, if you are not able to cover all the concepts of grammar, be on the safer side, subject verb agreement, tenses, conditional, article, and preposition. Please be true with your concepts, your application, do extensive practice from different resources, especially from standard resources, so that you are clear with their application as well as their usage. And then it's going to be very easy for you. This grammar-based question is not very time consuming. So the time that you save, if you consolidate these three parts, you will definitely save a lot of time in doing these questions, and that time can be used for doing other questions, such as RC and Parajoba. Focus on conceptual clarity, do practice to consolidate. Efficient time management, as I said, towards the end, you may run out of time and you haphazardly mark anything, that is definitely going to scale down your score. Don't let it happen to you. Efficiently manage your time. Most of the students reported this. In one section, though the highest time is devoted to quant, nonetheless they face this difficulty that quantitative was tough and hence they faced it difficult to manage time in quantitative. Since all these students reported almost same thing, so you better try to devise your um, strategy to do those questions in a limited amount of time. As I said, arithmetic, 55-60% were questions based on arithmetic. So those questions, if you have devised any formula, any short trick, or any other way to arrive at your answer quickly, try to practice with that. Right? So with that, you will be able to efficiently manage your time. And keep a track of other days' questions. So whenever you have slotted your exam, when you have scheduled your exam, try to see, though the exam pattern is going to be same, this range of questions and the variety of questions is going to be very similar. Nonetheless, keep a track of those students' feedback who take the exam 1 week before your exam schedule or a few days before your exam. That will give you more idea about what other topics might have been included. But arithmetic will remain the focal point of efficient time management. As I said, in RC, passages were easy to follow, but same time, since 500, 600 words, passages were this much long, they found it difficult to read entire passage. But here, skimming and scanning can be effective strategy to read this kind of passage where content is not very dense, the subject is not very complicated, just 5 options are there and 4-5 questions have to be done. Means the time is going to be investment, not much difficulty. That way, this practice is to be done for reading comprehension. Besides sectional order, when you take mock, come to a strategy that your strength lies in quantitative ability. So freeze that section. Yes. Start with logical reasoning. That is your focus. So whichever part you conclude as your strength part, as your forte after taking multiple mocks, take that as the sectional order, and then continue doing that in mocks you take before the exam. Right? So that is definitely going to be based on detailed analysis. Develop the ability to see all the questions. This is definitely going to impose a heavy penalty on you if you are skipping a question, and at the last, since you don't have time to see all the questions, you're going to submit your test before attempting all the questions. So instead of doing this, try to devote equal amount of time. As I said, for this verbal ability, to assume that this much time is given for each question. So if you have that mental timeline for each question, that will prevent you from spending an inordinate amount of time on a specific question. Do practice to identify your weak areas and exercise that helps strengthen those work areas. That's what we do. That's what we do when we analyze our mock. See which question takes a lot of time and which set of questions takes minimum time yet is always accurate. That way you will identify your weak area and strength area. Here, these questions which have been reported, now you don't have any option but to be good on these areas. Arithmetic, here preposition, analogies, or filling the blank. So that way you cannot afford to skip these parts. Whether you are good at them or not, you will have to devise some strategy to excel in these parts. To try to do that by more and more practice. Vocabulary is not something that cannot be learned in 10 or 20 days. So it's very difficult. Nonetheless, if you have some effective strategies put into place and you are very guided in your approach and you are very focused and consistent in your preparation, you can do some transformative thing in vocabulary as well in 20 or 25 days. So I have already discussed with you resources that you can base and start preparation. Then the ability to decide this question needs to be guessed, as you are not supposed to skip a question and it's not possible that you are going to find the answer of each. As in when you read, you should decide whether this question is to be solved and given time or this question is to be skipped and you should move on to the next question. That is definitely going to bring you down in terms of score, but you are going to salvage your position by doing well in next 2 to 3 questions. So if you're going to skip that, skip it then and there only. It is not wise to spend your time and then decide to mark randomly, right? So if you are going to guess, guess it then and there and move on to next. If that part has always been difficult for you, if that concept has always been difficult for you, no magic is going to happen in the examination hall and suddenly you will get that enlightenment with Buddha and solve that question. If it did not happen in your preparation stage, if it did not happen in mock, it's not suddenly going to happen in your exam. So don't expect any wonder to happen in the examination. Decide then and there that this is to be guessed and I need to move on to next. So that's how you have to maintain these things, actionable steps to do well in NMAT. Now, last thing that you have to keep in mind is since this exam is following all guidelines of COVID, so face mask is essential thing that you have to carry. Won't be allowed inside the examination hall if you're not wearing, right? Do wear a face mask or carry a face mask. Will be allowed to take your water bottle, but it has to be transparent, right? Other than that, you won't be allowed to carry anything along. So yes, you can wear your gloves, right? So that's another thing that you might want to wear in order to avoid the chances of infection of you using a computer and keyboard. You may want to wear a set of gloves, but then you will have to be careful whether you will be able to operate computer effectively and you will be as seamless as you are when you are not wearing gloves. So that you will have to see, but you will be allowed to wear these two things, gloves and your face mask. Bottle has to be transparent. So these are things that you have to carry if you want, but face mask is mandatory. You have to wear a face mask while taking the other documents that students were actually returned for, they did not carry. That is admit card, the admit card that you are given by NMAT that you have to carry, the printout of the email confirmation. That is specific requirement by NMAT, so you have to carry it along with yourself. Email which was sent to you by GMAT confirming your appointment for the exam. So take a printout. Don't assume that in the college premises or in the test center premises you will get that, or on road you will get that. Try to get these documents arranged before you take your exam or way before that. ID and address proofs. Primary ID, secondary ID, that's how they are terming it. Your ID is validate who you are, and your address proof can be another ID. So these two IDs and these two documents are to be carried with you when you go for the exam. Half an hour time is what they require you to report before the examination time. I would advise you go there before 40 minutes. Plan reaching there 40 minutes before your time there so that you can have hassle-free in the exam hall and you are not loaded with any kind of anxiety or any kind of apprehension about it. Right? So fine. So I guess here comes the end of today's session. This was the analysis of NMAT. Paper is easier, all is reported, except Quant. Both the sections were very doable, very manageable. Hence, the cutoff has gone is expected to go very high this year. Sectional cutoff as well as overall cutoff. Same time, a lot of students reported 230 plus score. That means students found it easier to perform well. That way, you will have to up your game for this exam. You will have to up your strategy for this exam this year. If you want to land somewhere in 250 to 40, that you can assume safe for getting a call for NMAT. So please follow these strategies and tips that we discussed today. And if you have anything to discuss further for NMAT, drop in a message and in the comment box, and I'll try to reply them. And do follow this channel for more such session for NMAT and other exams analysis as well as for the preparation. And thank you very much. And all the best for NMAT.